Yes, this is very much a simulation. This Earth simulation is the densest. Like, it's the most real. It appears as the most real. It's the toughest to break free from, which is why we're all masters. We signed up for this. Oh my God, we signed up to totally forget. But yeah, the program it's over. If you choose it to be over, it's over. It's over. So your experiences of it being real will be echoes. They'll be echoes of the past, which hold no life force whatsoever. Life force only exists in the now and the here.
I am so happy to bring you Cheryl McLaine. Cheryl, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you, Tia. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to talk about all of this stuff.
Cheryl, since you were about 12 years old, you have had this deep desire to find the meaning of life, the deeper meaning underneath all the superficiality, the physical world. You have actually come to find that, and you're here to share it with us. So we're going to talk about that today, but tell me about who you were before this major transformation.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, I think it started even before I was 12. I just had this feeling like a lot of us, especially the light workers out there, that like, what is this weird place? I don't really feel like I fit in. I can't explain it. I didn't really have a way of describing it for sure, what it was. It just always felt I was odd, like I was an oddball. And then when I was 12 years old and my younger brother was 3, my mom and my stepdad decided to purchase a Presbyterian church and convert it into a house. And it was weird, to say the least. It had a steeple and a full auditorium and a men's and women's restroom and a lobby, and our bedrooms were Sunday school rooms. And it was just really strange and wonderful and weird. And in that church, some strange things happened, some paranormal things, like pictures would fall off the walls. And I began to be plagued by these dreams where Satan was trying to kill me over and over and over again. And I couldn't make sense of it. And my mom was probably considered an atheist. We didn't have any religious background. In fact, she was probably like, if there is a God, why does all this horrible stuff happen? So she was not real happy with life. And I just became plagued by fear, like to the point where I was immobilized before going to sleep. I couldn't even go to sleep. And I'm sure my imagination built on it and made it worse than it was. And I think I snuck watching The Exorcist, that horrible movie, and I shouldn't have watched it, especially in that place, and probably made it even worse. I had this children's Bible that I had never opened before. And because I was so afraid, I decided to open it and see if there was something in it that could help me relax and feel safe enough to go to sleep. I didn't feel like I could go to my mom with it. I just started opening it and trying to make sense of it. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but there was this Jesus character in there. And I was like, who's this guy? And okay, I'm going to read this word for word and see if he can help me. And he started appearing in my dreams, and he would stand behind me. He wouldn't fight for me, but he would stand behind me, and I felt strength from it. And I think he gave me a sword or something. Anyway, I would kill the Satan character that appeared like the Grim Reaper with a sickle, and he would fall over the balcony like in all the scary movies. And then you look over the balcony, you go, oh, he's gone. So I didn't really kill him. I won the battle, but not the war, right? And from that point forward, I became driven, is an understatement, to find out who Jesus is, who's God, who's Satan, what's allowed here. Can we be overtaken by these dark entities? I was very perceptive. I now realize I was very perceptive to energy. And I now know, looking back, that a lot of what was coming to me then was the residual from the believers of fundamental Christianity, that there's heaven and hell, and our thoughts are things. And those thoughts can take up the appearance of an entity. And this is me now, how I'm making sense of all of that. And so dark entities and things like that I was dealing with back then were just the belief systems of the religious community. No judgment whatsoever as I say this. But so that's what sparked my journey. Why are there so many truths? Why does everyone appear to have the truth? Why are people willing to die for the truth when it's so different from everything else? And this fire, this raging fire I couldn't put it out. And throughout my life, I'm 58 now, so 45 years solid as a seeker. And I got into all kinds of trouble. I jumped into every kind of belief system I could. I experimented with my own consciousness. I'll try this on. I really felt called to Native Americanism and the Native people. To this day, I sob. I just feel so connected to them. So that was my first real lifetime, I'll say, as a Native American and studying their belief systems. And I was at a drum circle for a while, did sweat lodges and all of that stuff, and fell into an imposter medicine man and became molested by him. And I didn't believe in myself. I was looking for God outside of myself. And I gave away my power again and again and again and again. And I'm smiling because it's what I needed. It's what I needed. I fully know that there's only one consciousness, only one. And in order for the one to experience itself, to see itself, it had to create two. And so here we have non-dualism and dualism. And it's not one or the other, it's both. They are both true. And so we have these forms. This is a character, Cheryl McLaine. I'm this character. And so I'm the two as this character. And when this character wakes up, the I turns to the all-seeing I and they lock, and you become one in that moment. And that's what enlightenment is. It's really just in lighting. So your soul is coming forward as the light that it is and has been as the one, right? In the form. So I'm 45 years. Will you tell me that I'm God? Will you tell me that I'm God? Will you tell me the truth? Will you tell me the truth? I studied with a Christian mystic for 5 years. I left all my possessions. I left a 3-year-old daughter with her dad. Nothing could hold me to this earth. Like nothing could keep me from going to find myself ultimately. And it's been a wondrous and adventurous journey and one of immense suffering and discovery. And I've been in and out of it for 45 years. So I landed myself a corporate job in 2007 and in the real estate field. And I became a corporate trainer. So public speaker in front of large groups of people. And it was a great gig. And I was there for a really long time until just a couple months ago, actually. I left my corporate job just a couple months ago to do this. We can talk more about that later, but I just jumped into the corporate world after I left my teacher, my Christian mystic teacher. I found myself no longer comfortable there with her because I saw that I was giving my power away again. And I was wearing white every day, and it was a guru-disciple relationship in a lot of ways where she really like digs in on your ego. Your ego's massive. You got to work on yourself. And I really suffered there. I went into the dark night of the soul, and it was really difficult and challenging. And so I left that and got this corporate job. And when I left that teaching environment, I really was on a mountain. I was secluded. I was extracted from society for 5 years. I saw my daughter once a week on Sundays. And the idea behind guru and disciple is to protect the initiate from the ego. So if you extract the initiate from society, the tentacles of society don't have as much pull because the guru is protecting. And the guru's consciousness can envelop the initiate and bring it into a higher consciousness. And that really is real. With a real guru, that's really what happens. But we no longer need all that stuff. I did it, and I did it so I can tell all of you out there, you don't need to do it. This is a whole new world right now in this moment, and we don't have to do that anymore. That is the past. But I wanted to try it on and see what it was about.
It sounds like it's actually a little bit dangerous as well.
Oh my God, the spiritual circus did so much damage to my nervous system. And I'm not a victim. I've never been a victim in my life. I took up the belief systems that limited me. That's what happened. You cannot be taken advantage of by anyone. But I'm so glad you brought that up, Tia, because I do want to say, really to know yourself, to be discerning, to know why you act when you act, to know your frequency foundation. Who am I when I'm in a room with no other object for me to echolocate myself off of? What do you tell me about myself? And then I adjust accordingly to feel safe and secure. Remove all of that. Put yourself in a soundproof room with no light. What do you feel like? What do you exist like? How do you know you exist? In your heart of hearts. Know that. And then you don't have to get wrapped up in all the bullshit that I got wrapped up in. And currently, even now, the spiritual community, the metaphysical communities, the religious communities are so bogged down with dogma. Both darkness and light are being manipulated. And what I mean by that is the light is being manipulated by over positivity, love and light, puppy dogs and rainbows, joy. And I say that all the time, joy. That's a real thing. Gratitude, that's a real thing. Being in your heart space, that's a real thing. But we have to know where the neutral space is. Where is neutrality in all this? Because a magnet is positive and negative, right? But there's also neutral, feminine, masculine, and neutral balance. And we've gotten so out of balance. Yes, there's all of that we have to be careful of. So know yourself.
Know yourself is really ultimately what it's all about. And we don't need others or other situations to know ourselves. So
yes,
it's awesome that you were able to go through this and test it all out. And now you're sharing it. I think a lot of people do get wrapped up in this.
Yeah.
I like the word spiritual circus that you used, or the phrase, because I feel like sometimes it can be just like that.
There are so many beautiful souls and light workers coming forward, especially right now because we're in the ascension process. There are so many beautiful people. I love YouTube so much. It's how I found you, beautiful Tia, and all the beautiful people that you've had on your show. And I get something from everyone. This is the whole point, is that when we are authentically ourselves, we have the complete picture. But if we're cloning the other person, which I did every time, I'm like, okay, I'm studying with the Christian mystic. I'm going to wear white every day. That's what spirituality looks like. I'm going to be soft-spoken. I'm not going to ruffle any feathers. I'm not going to swear. I don't wear makeup. I give away my possessions, all of that stuff. No, that's not who I am. I am goofy. I love stupid humor like Ben Stiller and Jack Black. And I love all that stuff. The more laughter, the better. I am a complete goofball. So I had to allow myself to step into that. And I still swear and I wear makeup. And so yeah, be yourself. So I entered the corporate world and almost had a nervous breakdown because I went from complete protection, couldn't make a decision for myself, was being told what to do all the time, to to having to make a living and get myself a place. I didn't even have a car. I had nothing. I had to start over. And it was a wonderful ride. I learned so much. I'm so proud of my professional life. I got myself a beautiful house and back on my feet, and I can support my 26-year-old daughter and her husband and get them stuff that they need. And I felt really good about all of that. But fast forward about 3 years ago, I got married for the third time, actually in 2019. Your memory goes, by the way. Yeah. So time gets real squishy. So I don't even know if that's the right year, but I got married for the third time and it turned out to be an abusive relationship. And I, again, was giving my power away. Even then, after all of that, was giving my power away again. So 2020 happened. We all know where we were when that happened. It's like its own era. So 2020 happened and I lost my mother. 5 months later, I lost my father. I realized that my marriage was not what I wanted for myself and decided to get divorced. I put my dog down of 12 years. I put my cat down of 17 years, and I decided to relocate to Arizona by myself. All that happened in like a year. And I started to have anxiety. My nervous system was completely wrecked. And that's where a lot of society is right now. Our nervous systems are way out of whack, and anxiety has become normalized. I had my first anxiety, my last anxiety attack in public at a work event, and I was able to get myself out of it through breathing, breath awareness. I went outside and I just breathed my way out of it. I'm not saying it's always that easy, but I was used to doing that. And I was shocked at the amount of people that came to me and said, I've had anxiety since I was a kid. I'm on medication for it. It's not that big a deal. They didn't say it's not that big a deal, but they were just very normalized about it. And I was shocked. I'm not kidding to you. At least 8 people told me that they, just in my little circle there, told me they had anxiety. And I was like, no, this is not acceptable for me. And I was starting to wake up in the middle of the night. I wasn't bothering anyone. Who are you hugging when you're asleep? And I would wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety in my body, like it would wake me up. And I started to question that and say, this is not acceptable. Not 1 ounce of anxiety is acceptable to me. I'm done. I want to be done with it. And that was in 2021, the latter half of 2021. And I decided to enroll in an Eckhart Tolle class just to get balanced while I was working and all of that. I was just going to do that. I started getting really quiet at my job. And it was just this perfect transition to start focusing on my own soul and my heart and get some balance back and figure out this anxiety thing. The first week of this course, the first day of the course, I was catapulted into this acute awareness of every single thought I had in my head. We have 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day. And I could not have an unconscious thought all day and all night. these thoughts were, my eye was turned to them. The light of awareness was turned to them. And it was beautiful, and it sparked so many self-inquiry questions. Who is thinking? Who is the one thinking? Who is the one the thought is directed toward? And it implied that there are two, right? Even within me, there are two. So wait, there's source, and source created two so that it could see itself. But then who's the other one that's thinking? And I just started pulling that thread, and I started doing this practice where, in order to get control, neutral, in order to come to a neutral state, when I would have the awareness of the thought, most of the thoughts were stressful. They were lies. They were, I'm less than, lack, limitation, and fear-based thoughts. This is the program in the subconscious mind that is developed in the first 7 years of our life, I now know. And unchecked and unaware, it's how we make decisions. We make decisions in a reactive format from these thoughts of the past, that we're not safe, that we're not enough, that we need to be this, that, and the other thing. And I would just say, okay, 2 seconds. I just need 2 seconds of breath awareness. And I would, so if we do this right now, and you inhale, and you just become aware of it in your esophagus, in your lungs, in your belly, in your nostrils, there, boom. You've broken the cycle, the momentous cycle of that negative thinking. And I did that 100 million bajillion times a day. And eventually, I got more and more space in between thoughts. And one day, a year ago, almost to the day, I had a friend of mine who was staying with me, and I was meditating, and I had all these practices in place too. Like, I was meditating regularly. I was doing breath awareness incessantly. I was 100% of my time was spent on awareness. And I'm meditating, and I hear her like come out of the shower, and she went out on the patio, and I didn't want her to be by herself in my house. That's weird. So I came out of my meditation, but I didn't feel like I was all the way out of it. I don't know if that's ever happened to anyone, but you're just still, I'm still in it. But I went out on the patio, and I couldn't keep my eyes open. There was so much energy in my head. Have you ever felt that energy come into your head when you meditate? There's a lot of like head stuff happening. And my body was feeling very effervescent and bubbly and light. And I'm just sitting outside with my eyes closed, and she was reading. She was cool. We were chilling, and boom, I had this. I'm going to try and describe it. Tia, how many times have you heard, I can't describe it, but I'm going to try and describe it, right? All the NDEers and everything know what I'm talking about. And this is where NDEs and spiritually transformative experiences come together. This is the same thing. It is uniting with source. It is uniting the form with source. And I went into the void. I'm still here in this form, but I'm in, the majority of my consciousness is in this nothingness. It was complete black, but it was slowly churning, and it was silken, very silky. And it's like the low, I can hear it in my left ear all the time, the low, that sound of the universe, just, but it was like pre-universe. It was pre-manifested anything. And it's just this blackness. And I started bawling immediately because I had no mind. That's the only way I can describe it, is the space of no mind. There was no longer the personality Cheryl. There was no longer any effort to be anything. It was a complete letdown of everything I had ever tried to be. I'm going to start crying.
It's okay. Take your time.
We don't realize how hard we're trying all the time to be ourselves. And our heart space is this void in a way. It is, you are complete and you are whole and you are enough. And so it was complete nothingness. And I can also feel my body start to dissolve. All the hard edges of the form became vaporized. The form became vaporized. And my poor friend, she's, what is happening? She didn't know what was happening. I'm sobbing. I can't speak. I've lost all capacity for language. Like, I was a public speaker and I couldn't put into words what was happening. So all I could do was tell her, I'm happy. It's okay. I'm happy. That's all I could say. I was just mush, just complete mush. I had 4 other people coming to stay with me later that day. And I was like, not even worried about that. I was no one. I was nobody. You hear people say that, the non-dualists, not to put people in buckets, but the non-dualists are very much this void where I am no character. I am no one. I am nothing, right? That nothingness, that emptiness that the Buddhists talk about. That's very much where I went. And some people have the light, the big light, flash of light thing. That wasn't what I had. And I had to sit there with my eyes closed. I could not speak for many hours. And my dear friend was so lovely. And she said, just be whatever you need. If there's anything you need, let me know. I'll just be quiet over here. And I sat for hours in that space. And I somehow drove us to the airport to pick up the rest of my girlfriends. We were having a girls' weekend. It was just crazy. And I really, Tia, how I'm trying to see it now come together is that the part of my brain, the logical part of my brain that allows us language and technical skills and logical thinking, it just was not active. Driving was very difficult. Directions were difficult. Language was difficult. Performing tasks were difficult. It was really challenging for me to follow a conversation, especially if it was past and future, unless it was present, completely present. I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold space in that. And I couldn't carry conversations in that. And to this day, I'm still like that. It's a very present moment.
How long did you stay in this space? And you said you're still there, but the intense part of it.
Months. And my family members and my daughter, I really was trying to navigate who I was. I really was okay with not being anyone. And I was still working, and I was when you're a public speaker and a trainer, you start by, hi, I'm Cheryl McLaine, and I'm a trainer for this company. And and that didn't make any sense to me. That was not who I was. I am all that is. I have no name. I have no personality. And I I stumbled over that for many months. And I wanted to quit my job so badly, but something told me, just hold it, hold still. And my job, luckily, was so spacious at the time. I didn't have a lot of commitments. It was so perfect. Everything was so perfectly orchestrated, as our soul does. Each one of our experiences is so perfectly orchestrated. It may not seem like it to the logical mind, but it is. And so I just held to that. And my daughter came to visit me. And she's just so lovely and beautiful and perfect. And I just love her so much. And she came to visit me. And I was trying to be honest with everyone. Look, this is what I'm experiencing. And they knew I was different right away. I wasn't talking about anything I used to talk about. I was super, super quiet. What could be said? And she was like, I don't know who you are. And she had a mourning period. Where's my mom? And I tried to tell her that I'm more loving than I ever have been. And I'm more present than I ever have been. And we talked, and she was so open. And eventually she got to this space where she was like, okay, I'm good. This is just a vast change. I'm really good. And I had planned for us to go to a rock concert. Can you believe it? And so she was visiting for us to go to this rock concert. And I was like, yeah, let's experiment with this. I don't even know what's going to happen. I'm still very much in the void. I was in this state of meditation and bliss and peace. To this day, I have never had anxiety again. So after about 4 or 5 months of integration, so then what happens for all of us who go through something like this, and it's meant for everyone. If you are comparing yourself to me right now and saying, oh, I didn't have that. I do that all the time, by the way. I still do it. Don't do that. Whatever you do, catch yourself doing that and know that this is meant for everyone to be in the most unique way to you. Because if we try to clone each other again, we won't be showing source itself, because it's already seen that other thing, right? So embrace what you have or don't have, and just erase any temptation to compare. So this is meant for everyone. By this, you going, oh my God, I'm home. Whatever it looks like or feels. But the integration process is the second part. That amazing experience, that is the baby step. That is, and I thought it was the end. I thought it was the end step. And I was like, I'm good being a nothing. I am totally fine. I gave away tons of my clothes. I'm never going to wear makeup again. And I'm never going to do this and that. And the ego was still, and I hate to use the term ego because that's also been bogged down by a bunch of dogma, but the conditioned part of the mind, I still have conditioning. I went through conditioning this morning. So you're always going deeper and deeper. The integration process has been so incredible. And what that is, oh, this is uncomfortable. I have to show up for work. Okay, how am I going to do this? What limited belief do I have about being this person and this person? And you just work through it, and you work through it, and you work through it. And you start to come to the wholeness of the form and the light. The form and the light. The shape and the shapeless. And you can only do that through integration. And so now, where I am right now speaking to all of you is still a beautiful work in progress, always having something to uncover and to question and to recognize and be aware of, but also learning to love myself and accept myself and say, okay, this is fun. I can now say, this is so fun to come up against a limited belief, because even though it feels yucky and tight and maybe scary, I've had fear from the 12-year-old being immobilized by fear come forward, especially right now. And maybe this is a good time to talk about the ascension that's taking place in the new earth and all of that. But right now, there's this incredible influx of light, not only from our own soul, but from the cosmic forces. Oh my God, did you see the moon last night? It was incredible. Yeah. And it was an eclipse, and there's all these things lined up, and we're having this huge G4 solar storm right now, and all this light hitting the planet. I have goosebumps just talking about it. But what that's going to do is also just push up all the gunk. All the gunk has to come up from the bottom. The sludge from the bottom has to come up to the surface. And we have to resist the urge to judge ourselves. This means I'm not perfect. Oh my God, I thought I was enlightened, and now I have all this stuff coming up. I thought I did that already. It's just back to neutral again. Everything is information. It's only information. The process I had when I started recognizing every thought was, first the thought comes, and most of the time we don't catch the thought. The second thing that comes is a reaction in the body. And I could feel it in my solar plexus. My solar plexus would start to tense up and ball up. And anxiety would start to flood my system. Okay, so if you don't catch it there, that's okay too. Eventually, you're going to catch how your body feels. And you can trace it. Okay, what was the thought behind this feeling in my body? And that's when we turn our light of awareness to it. And if we can breathe and breathe ourselves into a neutral state right there, we can say, okay, my lovely darkness, come forward. What is the message you have for me? And this morning, I'll give you mine this morning. The message was, I want to tell you that you're trying to be someone. When you meet with Tia and her wonderful community, that you want them to think of you a certain way. Because I want to help, right? I want to help so badly. You can have a pure intent, but the conditioning, lack, limitation, and fear, the program, we have to be done with the program right now. Enough of the program. And right now, there's so much light here. We can be done. I found an exit clause in the program. And the exit clause is, I commit to myself to be honest about all of this and to look at this as information and say, do I still choose this? Because we do choose our entire reality in order to provide the experience of expansion and contraction. It's just information, and it's not our fault that we have a program. The program is also covering the earth. It's this limitation, okay? And limitation has to be the program so that we can have the contractive experience, positive and negative, right? But it's gotten out of hand. They got a little full of themselves, and enough of this. So right here and now, we can step into our own power, and we can say, I want to be done with this program once and for all. All of us can do this. And once you commit to yourself, to turn back to yourself always, back to yourself, 90 seconds of a contractive experience of full awareness, that's all it's going to take. It doesn't last much longer than that, even if it's trauma. I've gone into my own trauma, and I have trauma just like everybody else. And I was called to call forward the satanic figure from my childhood. Just recently, just weeks ago, I was prompted by my guides to call that forward. And I was like, hell no, I'm not calling that forward. That entity, I'm not calling that forward. And what does that tell me? If I look at that as information, what's the message there? Right? The message is, I'm powerless. If I call that entity, if it's even an entity, who told me it's an entity? And you just start pulling it apart. So I put myself in my full power, which is our heart space, and I called it to me. And it was nothing. It was nothing. It just was information. That's all it was. But I was prepared for it to be more than that, but I was crying. I was like, I really don't want to do this. So we can be enlightened because there's always more and more and more light that we can embody and still have this trauma come up and this stuff that we need to look at. But we're not powerless. We're actually so powerful.
I love a lot of the things that you're talking about, but one of the things that kind of stood out to me, and this is because I pay attention to the comments on my videos, and there's been a lot of talk about this spiritual awakening and ascension. A lot of people say that it can't be happening because it's darker than it's ever been.
Yes, there is truth to that for sure. There is truth to that. A couple things I want to add to that. The first thing is we don't always have to open up the trauma box either. Healing has been so sped up right now that you don't even really need to know a lot of the time what the root of the contractive experience is. So use your intuition. Like when you recognize, okay, I'm contracted right now. My light of awareness is on it. I'm in my heart space. I'm in neutral space. I don't really need, nope, no memories coming up. Nothing's coming up. Okay, I just bring more light into my heart. I'm good. You can feel yourself. Just get lighter. But sometimes a memory will come and then you're going to go deeper and you're going to go deeper. And sometimes you do need to go into that trauma. But what's so amazing right now is when I call forward my child self, what we're doing is if you look at linear time like a tapestry, like a straight line tapestry, like a runner that's on your table, you bring the past and the future together, the two ends together. So here's the child self from the past coming up and the future decisions that would have been based on that dysfunction comes up, right? And you embrace the whole thing and you put your light into it. That past is now clear and ancestrally too, right? So our parents taught us the lack, limitation, and fear because their parents taught it to them. You're undoing all of that thread from the frequency of whatever it is. So I'm not safe or I've been abandoned or whatever the frequency is. You're undoing that from the past all the way back. And then you are opening up the future to now make a conscious choice. What do I want my future to be in my true power? And no longer from the conditioning of the past. So it's the healing that is available now because we are done with the program, FYI. It is over. It's over. But some will still choose the program because the soul wants to still experience the severity of suffering. And that there's no judgment there. It's okay. We don't need them to be any different. So suffering is still essential right now to give us the viewpoint of choice, right? And so I choose to envision my new earth future all the time. I take my dog for a walk. I see plants that are lit up, man. The plants are bright. They're shiny. The leaves are waving at me as I walk past. There's no litter. It's Utopia. And I'm just going there. And I have this strangest sensation now that I am already in the new earth, but I witness the suffering and it's massive, but it's almost like it's all a hologram, but it's almost like a deeper hologram. It's an even deeper hologram. Also be aware of where your focus is, because where your focus is, where you're shining your light of awareness is what is you telling the universe you want to see more of. So yes, there is suffering. And would it be as easy for me to say this if I were in Ukraine right now and bombs were going off? And no, it would not. So I recognize that. But you still have a choice to choose where your focus is. I don't mean bury our heads in the sand. I look at the headlines, but I don't watch the news. And when I look at the headlines, I'm skeptical always. I'm in the neutral place. Everything is a spin of some kind. Not conspiracist, but just nothing is really the whole truth. Ever. Okay, I see this suffering that's happening in the world. If for me, like on Instagram, if I see a dog suffering or starving to death or something, oh my God, I contract immediately. Okay, I'm having a contraction. I recognize this. I allow it. I have a sign behind me. You can't see it, but it says, allow what is, breathe into it, and then choose where you want to focus from there.
I love that, because you're not just dismissing these things and saying that they're not affecting you so you can make other choices.
Yeah.
You're integrating it into the entire experience.
Yes. Yeah.
When you say the program is over, would you liken that to a simulation?
I have used that term myself. So, yes. And the reason I'm hesitating is the whole universe is really a simulation. So even if we're 12th dimensional beings, right? There's multi-dimensions, there's multi-universes, we can't even wrap our heads around it. The head cannot even go there. But it's all really holographic, because the one is the one. That's all there is. That's all there ever is the one. So yes, this is very much a simulation. This Earth simulation is the densest. Like, it's the most real. It appears as the most real. It's the toughest to break free from, which is why we're all masters. We signed up for this. Oh my God, we signed up to totally forget. To this day, I'm coming into my abilities, the clairsentience, clairaudience, all that stuff, but I still don't have full memory. And I think I just told my team, no matter what I say, don't give me full memory. I don't know. There's still more to experience. So it's just like we're opening flowers. But yeah, the program of the severity of forgetfulness it's over. If you choose it to be over, it's over. It's over. So your experiences of it being real will be echoes. They'll be echoes of the past, which hold no life force whatsoever. Life force only exists in the now and the here.
What can we expect as we ascend into this next level of living?
You can expect to still have contractions, and they're going to appear as reality. And you can expect to be tested. Do you really want to be free of this? And you can expect to feel immense amounts of light in your body. Your physical body changes. My body feels like it's full of bubbles. And you can expect to connect to nature and have it tell you about the nature of the universe from looking at a flower. You can see the nucleus of your own cell and the macrocosm and the microcosm. And it'll come in a unique way, like I said before, but all of the knowledge of the universe and the one is available within you. And at first you have to just hold on to the faith that this is true, not really knowing, which is what I did in the 2 seconds of breath awareness. And then I don't have like direct visions about the 3 days of darkness that I've heard about and the flash of light that I've heard about. But my intuition tells me I have a series of trusted sources, people that I have vetted myself, and they're all saying the same thing. And so that's when I start to allow it with my own intuition. And I do believe that there is going to be maybe not a flash of light. Maybe we're changing our reality right now where it doesn't have to be so impactful and it can be a series of X-class solar storms. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to come. But I do believe that we will experience something or a series of somethings that will catapult our physical form into more of a plasma or light body, and that our natural abilities of oneness and unity consciousness will come forward for all of us that have chosen it. And again, I can't stress enough, you have to choose, and you have to be willing to be radical sometimes about your choice, and be willing to lose friends, and be willing to move on from a job and choose again and again and again. And I don't know what the new earth is going to look like, and no one can tell us, because we are forming it right now in our own consciousness as we transform ourselves, as we alchemize our base nature into our natural state of being. So let's have fun with it. Let's lighten up and let's have fun. I want to connect with people who want to bring joy forward, and let's stop being so heavy about everything, and let's just do cartwheels in the grass and jump on a trampoline and play ping pong or like whatever. Let's just laugh and have fun and do our work when we need to do our work, and build what we want to build. What do we want to build together?
And make it into the utopia like you were talking about.
Yes.
The beautiful
Yeah.
plants waving at you and full of lights.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
I love it. Yes.
Yeah. I don't see it with my physical eyes, but I don't need to. I don't care. I feel them. I'm telling you, there's life force in the earth. And as we heal ourselves, we heal her. She's going with or without us, by the way. She is ascending. She's already going. And she actually did come to me and tell me, bring them to me so I can open the door all the way. She told me that. So when we heal and we ground into her, so you imagine that you have this root that goes from either the bottom of your feet or your tailbone all the way into the center of the earth. And then you branch out a root system there. And then she fills that root and sends it up to our physical form. Her beautiful energy, she's her own consciousness. And then we combine that with the light of the cosmos, the light of the I am and source, and we heal her too. She holds all of our trauma in this network around her. And so when we heal ourselves, we poke a hole in that. We can spread it like a cobweb for her. It's like a cobweb around her. And it's just amazing.
So many near-death experiencers have seen that net around
Yes.
Earth, and they talk about how it keeps us contained.
It's like a veil. It's like the veil we have. What's the veil of forgetting? And there's all kinds of stories out there that you can find on the origin of humanity and all of the celestial influences there and ETs and all that kind of stuff. I'm not an expert on that, but however it got there, it's there, but it is dissolving because God is calling us to itself, or source is calling us to itself. It's been enough time, eons upon eons of this veil over our eyes. And now it's time. The light wants to play for a while.
What about the sun? We're seeing a lot of things happening with the sun, a lot of, like you were talking about, the geomagnetic storms, solar flares, things like that, sunspots. How does that play into this? Is it a part of the ascension?
My intuition, and that's all I have to go on, and I've had slight visions. There's this rainbow something going on, something with rainbows. So I've had it in visions. I saw like this black hole sun is the only way I know how to describe it. And I'm not saying our sun's going to explode or anything like that, because there was still light in the sky. But it could have been an eclipse. It could be just symbolic of something. I don't know. But around the circumference, there were these rainbows of light, like solid rainbows of light, prisming down on us or out toward us. And I know the sun is involved. That's all I know. And it's so exciting. I'm starting to geek out on all that and watch, oh, what's the sun doing today? And to see the flares coming off of the sun. And you can't tell me that doesn't have an effect because it's plasma. They even say the plasma storm, it's a plasma storm and radiation. And these are plasma bodies, and water. The water has a form that is plasma. So I'm still exploring all of that, but yeah.
It's an exciting time to be alive.
Freaking exciting. I love it so much. I'm having so much fun. I know, and I don't mean to make light of, there are so many people that are really suffering and with illnesses, and I'm not trying to make light of that, but my reality, I can't help it. My reality is this. I am very excited.
If my audience had questions for you, if they wanted to reach out, how can they find you?
I have a website, CherylMcLaine.com, and I have social media accounts linked into that with same name, CherylMcLaine.com. I'm trying to keep it simple. I don't have much of activity on there. I put videos out regularly. I'm just stepping out right now, Tia, as I told you. So I don't know where this is going to go, but I would love to talk with people who want to answer the call to be done with the program. Enough of the chaos of the conditioned mind. Let's be joyful. Let's turn our gaze towards something that is lighter. And I think I can help people with that based on my radical exploration in my life. So I would love to hear from collaborators that want to do something exciting. Who knows?
And if you had one message that you want the audience to take away from this conversation, what would it be?
Know yourself without anyone else's input. Who are you? And be that, and be radical about being that. Let your freak flag fly. It doesn't matter. Tia told me earlier, we're going to stumble over our words. We're going to look goofy sometimes. Who cares? I'm sorry if I'm powerful. I'm not sorry if I'm powerful. If I knock your socks off, that's not my fault. I don't have control over your socks. Don't dim your light.
You've been just amazing to have. I am so grateful that you reached out and wanted to be a guest on the podcast. I love your story. I love your message. And thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you.